Today on CityCast Nashville, we're kicking off spooky season by venturing into the Ryman Auditorium with haunted history tour guide Ken Wood. From country music legends haunting backstage to eerie late-night sightings by security guards, the Mother Church has some scary secrets to tell, and we've got the inside scoop. It's Thursday, September 25th. I'm your host, Marie Cecile Anderson, and this is what Nashville's talking about. The Ryman Auditorium is 133 years old. You've spent more time in this building than most of us. As the lead guide of the Ryman Haunted History Tour, which ghost story do visitors react to the most? Which story gives them the biggest chills?
It's kind of hard to say because I think people take it different ways. I mean, obviously, we have the incident where we talk about the ghost that is seen in our balcony periodically. It was first seen from some security guards who have been hired by a group that have been here for a couple nights. They wanted to have their items left on stage. They brought in a third-party contractor to sit on stage at the night to be able to watch their items. Our security guard had locked the doors, so essentially locked them into the building. And so they're sitting on the stage, and they said, hey, we'll be back in the morning, let you guys out. And they said, okay, great. And so everything went well. There were no incidences from the outside of the building until the morning security guard showed up, started unlocking the door, starting to get everything set up, and went up to the guys and said, hey, guys, how did everything go last night? Did you have any issues while you were here last night? And they said, no, we didn't, but we are kind of curious. You had somebody sitting in the balcony watching us the entire night. Why did you have somebody sitting up there watching us? And they go, we didn't have anybody in the building. And they go, no, we saw them in section 11. They were all in gray. They were motionless the entire night, and they watched us the entire night from there. And they said, no, nobody was in the building with you that night. I'm the first one to walk in the building since you were locked in that night. So that's the first time that they saw what is being called the old gray soldier. So the balcony itself was constructed to be able to support the Confederacy coming into Nashville in 1895 for the centennial with the state. And they were going to have some meetings take place. And so they talked to Thomas Ryman, and he agreed to add the balcony, which is always part of the plans for the Ryman Auditorium. It just had been built at this time because they didn't have the money to be able to do it. And so they tribute that person being seen sitting in the balcony to a Confederate soldier that was sitting there that night, taking in the events that was taking place in the building that night. Now, we've also had a second incident take place with that same soldier sitting in section 11. Security guard that night, we didn't have anything set up. So they have requirements to walk through the building to do checks throughout the night. And the security guard had actually started walking across the stage after checking our stage right backstage area, going through the dressing rooms, making sure there was no incidences or taking place where somebody gotten into the building, fire going on in the building. And so as they were crossing the stage to be able to go through stage left, they looked up and saw somebody sit in the balcony. So they were startled because they didn't anticipate anybody being in the building at that time. They thought they were the only one in the building. And so from that standpoint, they yelled, stay right there. And so they ran across the stage, ran up the staircase on stage left, and they burst through the door at the base of the balcony to be able to go after them. But when they got into the balcony, nobody was sitting in section 11. And you can imagine, middle of the night, very quiet inside, if somebody had been sitting there and started running away, they would have heard them running away, and they didn't hear any other sound in the building other than themselves. So that was the second time that they saw somebody sitting in the balcony.
Oh, Ken, I have chills. I've heard about the gray soldier before. Oh, do you have another story that visitors enjoy?
Obviously, the Ryman Auditorium was constructed to save souls by Captain Thomas Ryman. He had a soul saved by Sam Jones after a revival here in town. And so Thomas made the decision to give him a permanent location and start saving souls. Once he had his soul saved, he wanted to make sure that everything that took place within inside the auditorium once it opened up was always wholesome and family friendly as well. They wanted to make sure that everything that went on was to the benefit of Nashvillians. They started bringing other events inside the building. They needed to do that to help pay off the building debt. Well, when Thomas passed away in 1904, it has been stated that he actually made a return to the building in 1908. The play Carmen was going to be taking place inside the building. Very scandalous play. And so that definitely would not have gone along the lines of being a decent thing taking place inside the building. So the story is that during the play, the lights started flickering, going on and off. And they said that they could hear a disemboweled voice laughing in the rafters as that was carrying on, as the lights were flickering on and off. So it is stated that he came back, his ghost came back to disrupt the performance of Carmen that night in 1908 inside this building.
Well, listeners at home, you may think you're hearing ghosts right now, but I think it's actually Ken's coworkers outside of his office door. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo.
Unfortunately, there's not a lot of quiet places I can get into here at the Ryman Auditorium.
Is there a particular spot in the Ryman where people feel the most uneasy?
The original front side of the building is on Fifth Avenue. And so that sign has been identified as having the most activity, if you want to say from that standpoint, over there on that side. Lula Naff was the first general manager of the Ryman Auditorium. She started working the building in 1904. She started booking her own acts in 1913. And in 1920, the committee appointed her as a general manager, the first general manager of the Ryman Auditorium. So she was bringing in acts inside this building. And so it has been identified that she's been seen, as well as realized that she's been on that side of the building a few times over the recent years. On our front side of the building, which is now our off of the Fifth Avenue side, we had an area that we used to have a recording booth in. Guests would be able to come in, sing some songs for like $15, and we would send them the recordings. We've taken that out. We have no video in there, but that area over there, it was the original ticket box area of the building. And so Lulu would work out of that ticket box office quite a bit. And in there, because it was recordings, they'd have it better for soundproofing. And from there, the engineers who were doing the sound recording were allowed to play music if somebody wasn't coming through and singing any songs, because you could get awfully quiet in there. So you'd allow them to have a radio on. They'd also get lunch breaks. And one of the guys that was working there one day was listening to rock and roll music throughout the day. He would turn it off when he did the recordings. Well, he stepped out to go to lunch. Generally, we have one key for that room. And so he went to lunch with the key so nobody could get into the room, because we had some expensive equipment in there. And then when he returned from lunch, because he just left the radio on, he came back into the room and he noticed that the radio station was changed over to a service preacher that was over the radio airways. And Lula was known to be a devout Methodist. So she would love to listen to preachers over the radio. So wondering if maybe Lula went in and decided she didn't like that new rock and roll sound, and then changed the channel to listen to the preacher speaking that day so she could listen to that while she was in the room. Also, other indications of her being in that room as well is that because they would actually, in the early days, they would actually use CDs. They would burn their songs to the CDs and then put the label on it and left for lunch. When it came back to the room was disturbed. The label maker was turned upside down. A couple items had been knocked off to the floor, and it was just in disarray when they went back into the room. So just wondering if Lula was a little upset that her box office wasn't as clean as she wanted to be, and there were some things in there that she wasn't expecting to see in that room. So she did work from that side of the building. Her office was underneath the staircase on the north side of the building on the Fifth Avenue side. We had one of the engineers stepping out of the recording booth one day, was going to lunch, and he had a couple things in his hands. And as he stepped out, he saw a lady walking down the staircase over there, an older lady walking down the stairs in a white dress with blue flowers on it. Lula was known to say that she only owned two dresses. One was a black dress and one was a Sunday dress. And her Sunday dress was a white dress with flowers on it. And so they saw this person walking down, thought they got lost in the building and wanted to help them get back on track. So they stepped in to put their items back inside the room. But when they stepped back out of the room, the figure was gone. So it is believed that Lula was actually seen walking down that staircase. Now, when we do our tours, we actually take everybody down that staircase as we head downstairs. So we always encourage everybody to look for Lula as they're heading down the staircase.
Learning a new language opens the door to new friends, new cultures, maybe even a whole new life. So why not start that journey today? I'm CityCast CEO David Plotz, and I'm learning Spanish with Babbel. Babbel's conversation-based technique quickly teaches you useful words and phrases about the things you actually talk about in the real world. I've been practicing my Spanish with Babbel's AI conversation partner. I can choose my conversation topic and have a real-time dialogue. It's great at helping me think on my feet. and it's improving my pronunciation. Also, it's really easy to do anytime on my phone using Babbel's excellent mobile app. It's just one of the many fantastic Babbel tools for learning. Plus, Babbel has a real-time feedback, progress trackers, and handy visualizations, all of which make it really easy to stay motivated to learn. I want you to learn another language. So CityCast is teaming up with Babbel to gift you 55% off subscriptions, but only for our listeners at babbel.com/citycast. Get up to 55% off at babbel.com/citycast. Spelled BABBEL.com/citycast. Babbel.com/citycast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
What's up, listeners? You know we at CityCast Nashville love more than anything connecting you to great local adventures. And these Ryman Haunted History Tours are a perfect example of that. Here's a question for you. Do you want even more exclusive Nashville happenings? Well, if you just answered yes, then you need to go ahead and join CityCast Nashville Neighbors, our members-only group. Why? Because each week you're going to get an email packed full of the best events in town, plus exclusive invites to special gatherings just for members where you can meet and mingle our CityCast Nashville team. You can join anytime. Our door is always open. It's only $10 a month at membership.citycast.fm. And hey, let's explore our city together. Now back to the Ryman Auditorium's Haunted History Tour Guide, Ken Wood. So the Ryman has had thousands of musicians perform on its stage. Have any past performers gotten totally spooked out? Can you think of any scaredy cats that come to mind?
Not necessarily scaredy cats per se, but we do have a story. Opry, after they left us in 74, they ended up returning to this building in 2000. So during the winter months of November, December, and January, they would return to the building as they leased out their house to the Rockettes. And so the Opry would come here, they would do sound check. And one day, Whistling Bill Anderson was scheduled to be on the Grand Ole Opry on Saturday night. And he was sitting on stage. And that night, he was going to sing a Hank Williams song. So as they were getting ready to start doing sound check, the power to the building just completely shut off. And so they're sitting there in the dark, nobody's saying a word. And Whistling Bill just said, "Hank, I apologize." And after he got done saying, "I apologize," the electricity came back onto the building.
Oh my goodness. That's so cool. That's so neat. Oh, having had the pleasure of doing a backstage tour there, you feel the presence of the spirits.
You do. And we've actually had two occurrences on our stage right third floor. So when we do the backstage tours, we generally take you through that floor. And over time, we've changed the specific topics of each dressing room over time. In the early years, one of the dressing rooms on that third floor was dedicated to Hank Williams. And so we have a story from the lead of the tech crew. They had a show going on that night. They needed to run and grab something from their room, which is on the fourth floor above that floor. So they went backstage. That's a night that wasn't assigned to any guest that was performing that night. They didn't need those rooms. And as they went backstage, they turned the corner. And as they turned the corner, they saw a figure in a white cowboy hat and a white cowboy suit walk into the Hank Williams room. And so they thought maybe one of the artists got lost or guests with the artist came upstairs by accident. So they wanted to go over and check to make sure that they got them back in the right location where they needed to be. So they decided to go ahead and step into the Hank Williams room to be able to assist that person. And when they stepped in the room, the figure was gone. So it was believed that they saw Hank Williams walk into his own dressing room that's dedicated to them. Obviously, those rooms were not there when Hank was here. Those were added as part of the 93, 94 renovation. But who would argue that his spirit itself, being that he was very disappointed being kicked out of the Grand Ole Opry, always wanted to get back onto the Grand Ole Opry, for his spirit still would not be around this building because of the years that the Grand Ole Opry was here. And there was also a second incident that took place on that same floor, because we do have a commuter bathroom on that floor for the two dressing rooms. And so the tech crew during the day, when they do a lot of work, they can get dirty as they're running wires and stuff like that. The tech crew guy had gone into the bathroom and he was washing his hands that day. And when he looked up in the mirror, he saw somebody standing over his shoulder in a white cowboy hat. He said he had dark, cold eyes, a forlorn look about himself, and startled him because he didn't think anybody else was on the floor with him. And so he just kind of stuttered and turned around to look. And when he turned around to look, the figure vanished. And so he believes he saw Hank Williams standing behind him while he was washing his hands in that bathroom.
Have you ever experienced something you couldn't explain?
Unfortunately not.
Okay, Ken, Seriously. You've never seen anything? Do you believe in ghosts?
Now, I'm going to say this. I believe that we do have people looking out for us. I've had a few incidences in my life where I feel that if it hadn't been for a spirit near me, something may have happened to me. So I do believe there's figures out there. It's always difficult to say, whether you believe or not until you actually see it. I do believe that there are spirits there that can help guide us. And so maybe I don't have the ability to be able to see that with my own eyes, but I know that I have been guided sometimes in my life from that standpoint. So I would say that I'm a believer, but I'm also kind of believe in science as well. So sometimes if you can't see it, you can't touch it, you don't always believe in it. But so I just haven't seen anything on my own at this point in time right now. I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I don't plan on going anywhere for a while. So maybe one day I'll be able to see Lulu walking across and have a conversation with her. But I'm still waiting for that to happen.
We really want that for you. We believe in that too. Does the Ryman staff have any superstitions? And are there any areas of the Ryman that you all avoid?
Now, I've not learned about any superstitions in the building since I've been here for the 4 years. And unfortunately, there's not really any area you can avoid. So it's very difficult from that standpoint. But I will tell you, on that Fifth Avenue side, there's a lot of reports from ushers as well as security guards who work over there that they feel somebody will actually touch them during shows. And if you've been to a show, it can get awfully loud inside of there. So sometimes they rely on somebody just kind of patting them on the shoulder to get their attention or touching them. And there's been multiple people on that side of the building who have actually indicated that they felt like somebody was tapping them on their shoulder to get their attention. And when they turned around, nobody was there. So that's kind of a common occurrence that happens on that side of the building. We've also had occurrences on that side of the building where when security would be doing their rounds, and there was at one time that the security office, before they built the guard check on our drive, was located on the south side of that side of the building. It used to be the women's bathroom. Now it's our maintenance office. The security would be in that office. So they would actually leave there like once an hour, once every 2 hours, and do rounds throughout the building, make sure everything was good. They would do that from there before they got moved out to the guard check at night. And there is a story where somebody had come in. It was their first night inside the building. From a security standpoint, they were then put in the building. And right before they were to start their rounds, they heard the metal doors within the auditorium slamming open and slamming shut and slamming open and slamming shut. And you can imagine in the quiet building that it is, when nothing's going on inside the building, it was awfully loud and they could hear that going on. And it actually scared them so much that they didn't leave that office that entire night. They waited for somebody to come in the next day to be able to come in and know that they had somebody else in the building with them.
All right. Well, so now we need the real details for the Ryman Haunted History Tours. Give us the details. How can we book it? And why don't y'all offer it more often?
Great. So the tours will be taking place. You can go to Ryman.com. Be able to sign up for one of the tours. They'll check in. We cap them off on how many people get to go on the tour because of going into the dressing rooms, going underneath the stage. Most of us don't have the opportunity to be able to go under the stage. We do get to when we do the ghost tours. So it's a great way to be able to get underneath the stage, to be able to see underneath there. And then another thing that really happens during the tour as well is you get your photo while you're standing on the stage. So you have the windows as your backdrop. If you come through a tour during the day, you've got the stage as your backdrop. But at night, when we do the ghost tours, we'll actually do it while you're standing on the stage.
Oh, I didn't realize the haunted history tours are at night.
Yes, they are at night. Last year, I hate to say this, but it was a really interesting night because we had thunderstorms with lightning. So being able to lead a tour around while that was happening was a very cool experience. The question about why don't we do them more often? Because we prefer to do them around October. Because, if you sit there and tell you're going to do a haunted tour in February, you're not probably going to grab a lot of attention for some folks. So we want to do them closer to October. But the problem is we sell out a lot of nights. We're an active venue. We do over 250 events on an annual basis. From about here on out, I think we've only had about 8 open dates before the end of the year. And so we try to squeeze them in when we can, when we have availability, when we don't have a show at night. Because we can't do it during the day. It's not as fun to do it during the day, but it is time where we can shut down the building. We have our tour guides come in and walking everybody around.
Well, I am thoroughly creeped out. Thank you so much for sharing these stories with us. Listeners at home, we're going to put the link in our show notes, so please sign up. You only have 2 chances in the next month to do these tours, and then we'll look forward to more tours in the future. Ken, thank you again. This was really awesome and spooky.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. It is a fun time to walk through the building to learn the different stories that are taking place inside this building. I went over a few, but we have a lot more that we talk about when we do the tour.
That's all for today here on CityCast Nashville. And don't forget, you can support the show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Nashville neighbor at membership.citycast.fm. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell your friends, rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our Hey Nashville newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Toodles!